Please welcome back to the stage the director of Found, Scott Schirmer. We also have two of the cast members in. The lead, Marty, Gavin Brown, come on down. As well as mom, Phyllis Munro, come on down. I guess I'll start off with a quick question. Tell us about the shoot. I understand it wasn't exactly a cut and dry, 12 days, easy peasy kind of shoot.
We wanted to shoot over maybe a 10-day period or a 14-day period in the summer before school started. And then we had issues with casting. The boy that plays Marty's friend David and the boy that plays the older brother Steve, both they had family members that said, if you do this movie, one of them said you're not doing this movie, and the other was, we're gonna throw you out of the house if you do this movie. So we had to recast those parts at the last minute, and that meant we were shooting during the school year on weekends. And so we shot this movie 32 days between June or July and December. And it was an endurance test, to say the least.
All right, do we have any questions in the audience? Right there on the stairs.
How is it being so young and playing a role like that? And being put into bondage, those scenarios?
The hardest part was crying probably, but the rest of it was just the rest of them helping me out and just encouraging me the whole time. And just saying that I could get through it and it's not that hard. Mostly some of them trying to make me cry. Not really. One of them yelled at me to see if I would cry and I just kind of stood there. Not really. I don't know. It's not that weird. Being tied up and ball gagged is kind of weird, but I use it as a conversation starter, so.
The gag wasn't that tight. And he thoroughly enjoyed being covered in blood and tied to that bed.
We should have got a red ball gag.
Gavin, this is pretty much your first role, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never did acting before.
It's trial by fire.
So it was just kind of one of the reasons I think they also kind of let me do it is because my mom was the only woman that would be sure, you can tie my son to a bed and do whatever else you really want to, throw him around, hit him.
Give it up for supportive parents. Any other questions out there? Right there.
I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the opening title sequence of Spider.
I work for a publishing company that I do video marketing for them, and also in that department there's an illustrator who does freelance illustrations for some of our authors. And he and I teamed up to do some video marketing projects for our company, and I liked his stuff, so when it came time to do this, I said, hey, Lowell Isaac, will you please consider doing this? And he did. He storyboarded it himself. I gave him a few notes, but he determined which shots, and on his spare time over the course of the year that we were gearing up, he kind of cranked out a few pictures at a time, and then I edited it together in Sony Vegas to be what it is right now. So I owe him now. He has recently finished a graphic novel with Dark Horse, Martians Go Home, and I'm going to be doing the promotional stuff for that one. Quid pro quo, when you are a no-budget movie.
Two questions. Could you talk about the locations and also the book?
Locations are a pain in the ass when you have no money, because you're basically asking someone to come into their house and tear it up and be in their way forever. So we lucked out in that the house we used was the producer's parents' house, and they were on vacation for a week, so we shot most of the stuff in there. And then the boys' bedrooms are literally my friends' bedrooms. Everywhere else in Indiana, they're all kind of, oh, cool, a movie, sure, come on in, make a movie. So it's really not that hard in Indiana to do stuff like that for free, because people are so interested in it for a day. So try and get done in a day, that's my only advice. And as far as the book goes, I would just say that the first line is the first line in the movie. My brother keeps a human head in his closet, and when I came across the cover of the book on our websites, because the company I work for also published the book, I was like, wow, black book with a skull on it. That's a lot different than the recipes and self-help shit that I see day in and day out. And so I read the book, couldn't put it down, and then I was terrified that Todd Rigney, the author, might not let me make it because I loved it so much. And fortunately, I located him on the internet. There was a pervert that had recently been arrested with the same name, and I was hoping it wasn't him, and it wasn't. No. And it wasn't him, thank goodness. And I just drove down to Lexington, Kentucky, where he lives, and for $1, we optioned it from him, and he gets a nice percentage, though, when we get distribution. Great guy, very supportive, let us change whatever we wanted to, but it's really a faithful adaptation because he's a movie fan and he writes kind of like a screenwriter. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Cool.
Oh, and also the location, the train thing.
The train thing, people, yeah, that one gets talked about. There's some interesting personalities in Bloomington, Indiana. He's a Vietnam vet who's missing body parts, some of which are on sale in that location. If you have the money, a few $1,000s, you can buy a thumb. It's for real. And it's right outside Bloomington, Indiana. It's just a series of 4 or 5 train cars that he keeps decorated year round, and we used it during the off season because during, I think, September and October, maybe November, he opens it up, and for $5 you can walk through, and it's pretty nifty. And it was just all there. We brought in very little dressing. It was just all there like that.
Hi, I guess I'm a teacher. I just wanted to say that I appreciated this movie about bullying. I don't think there's enough movies done about it to show the actual horror that happens. I guess my question is, I'm deaf, so I'm wondering if there will be subtitles on the DVD when it comes out.
We have Spanish subtitles and French subtitles right now, and it's not going to be very hard for us to add English subtitles, so I'm pretty optimistic that there will be English subtitles in addition to Spanish and French.
Maybe I'll email you and we can follow up on that.
Sure. I mean, it's not very hard for us to do, so I think it'll happen. Thank you.
Senator?
You really try to bring us back into 70s horror in this movie. Besides the VHS tape covers, the music is absolutely fantastic. It takes us right back to the 70s. Can you tell us about the music?
I love film scores so much, and with no money, you're stuck with what you have, right? But I was so lucky in that the few weeks before we had the final cut ready, before we entered our first festival and had our premiere, things just happened. The movie god shined down on us, truly. A friend of mine, Aaron Marshall, said at the last minute, "Hey, do you need any of my music?" And I'm like, "I love your stuff. Let me see if it works." And that was Aaron Marshall, and maybe a third of the music is his. And then Matt Zink, one of the music supervisors for the movie, was kind of scouring the internet for people and found Bing Satellites in the UK, who's also, like Aaron Marshall, an ambient musician. And the two styles kind of really blended together. So maybe 2/3 of the music in the movie is Bing and Aaron. And then we have a friend in Bloomington named Magician Johnson, who did the music for Headless, which is also played during the title sequence and at the end when all the really nasty shit's happening. And then another friend of ours, Greg Wright, did a couple of tracks. And a friend of mine in LA pitched in for the weird music, the Deep Dwellers score, and the train music, the Calliope music. So it was a real patchwork quilt effort and has no right to work as well as it does, but I also really like how it turned out. I really like the music in the movie too, so I'm glad it struck a chord in you as well.
Hi. I haven't read the book myself, but I wanted to ask about the idea that the film is based on bullying as the backdrop, where Marty is basically being bullied the whole time, and the fact that he ended up fighting back at the end. So when I was looking at what's Steve's motivation behind his killings, I was thinking that it would be some kind of a mirror towards what Marty was going through, but instead there's a racial angle being played here. I don't know if that's from the book at all, or is there a reason why that the direction is kind of changed to the bullying side?
That's a good question because it's something that sticks in a lot of people's craw, and it's something we talked a lot about before we shot the movie. In the book, Steve likes Headless, and all of the victims in Headless are black women. And the racist ranting that goes on in our field scene goes on much longer and is so incredibly insidious in the book that we had to tone it down. Todd told me that he just wanted to make sure that since they were brother characters, you kind of still felt for Steve, and he just wanted to make absolutely sure at a certain point in the third act that you knew Steve was really bad and that you didn't want to identify with him anymore. And I think for the movie, we were like, okay, I think we can do that without going so extremely with the racism motivation. For me, it's more ambiguous. The way I interpret it is that it's an excuse on Steve's part. He's telling Marty that it's racism, expecting that Marty will identify with that and accept it because he was picked on by an African-American kid. And their dad's racist. I think Steve's also subconsciously trying to get back his dad's affection with this racism angle. But I think at the end of the movie, when you see the big boner, that's why he's doing it. He's doing it because it turns him on. Hurting and killing people is connected to his biology. And I thought that was one of the most provocative concepts in the movie. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
My video art teacher told me not to apologize for my work, and that was a nice way of trying to apologize, I think.
Someone right up at the top.
So you have some really realistic gore effects in this film. Can you just talk about your process of sourcing the company to such a big budget to make things look so gruesome and awesome?
The Clockwork Creature Company is Arthur Culliford and Shane Beasley primarily, and they're both friends of mine. Arthur's been a friend of mine for over a decade, and he's my roommate. So that's how you do that. You get lucky. You get lucky. And no, like I said before, no one on the movie was paid, but the bulk of our budget outside of equipment went to the makeup supplies. So Arthur and I both wanted, and Shane wanted the best stuff. So we had conversations about which materials were going to lend themselves to a more realistic look. And we decided to get the nicest stuff for the heads in the story proper. And then we bought cheaper materials for the heads in Headless to try and make them look a little less real. But they're homegrown. Arthur went to a school in Orlando for makeup effects, and they're very experimental, great guys. And I'm really lucky to have them in my back pocket, so to speak, because I understand that's a luxury not a lot of indie filmmakers have. So if you meet some makeup effects friends, keep them.
Right there.
How much blood did you go through?
Maybe 6 or 7 gallons. And it's like $50 a gallon. So, but you gotta have blood. So you budget for that shit.
What's next for all of you?
Let Phyllis answer that first.
Well, I'm working on a couple of shorts right now, and I'm waiting for Scott to do his next film, so.
I was in another feature movie, but I played like a small role of yelling at a fat comedian. And then I'm auditioning for a movie out in Atlanta for a main role that I had to sing in. So that's about it. And then waiting for him to let me get killed in a Bigfoot movie.
I think Bobcat stole my thunder with Bigfoot. There's so many Bigfoot movies now, but I do love Bigfoot. And then for me, I am on the verge of announcing my next project. I've got 3 or 4 different things. The Blanc Bean Company, Jennifer Blanc Bean and Michael Bean, have asked me to do a segment of an anthology horror film that they're going to shoot year after next. And in addition to that, I'm writing a script called Bad Blood that will be really awesome. Would be nice to have at least 100,000 for that one. If anyone has 100,000 in the audience, I will gratefully take it. But I also have a couple of projects that I could do for about like found with money I could make over the course of a year. And by God, if that's what it takes, that's what I'll do, because I'm not going to stop making money and I'm not going to wait for money either.